Ukrainian foreign ministers into the same room to negotiate directly. Time is of the essence since Ukraine is on the verge of economic collapse. Russia's foreign minister said the Western nations set a bad example by supporting protesters in Ukraine and will not withdraw troops from Crimea.
So what does the situation in Ukraine mean to Ukrainians and the rest of the world? At Queen's Park, we're happy to have Professor Frank Sisson. He's the director of the Peter Jasek Center for Ukrainian Research. Professor, this is terrible news. We've seen the images on television. Tell us, is Ukraine on the brink of collapse?
No, I don't think it is. I think one thing that we have seen is that the new Ukrainian government, although it has many, many problems, has been able to organize the country, reach out to the Western powers, and it looks like the West has responded as well. Now, that doesn't mean that the economic situation is not extremely serious and grave, and it does not mean that the invasion of Crimea, the refusal of the Russian government to follow international accords, hasn't set an extremely difficult problem for the country. Most important of all, the eastern regions of Ukraine, where Russia hoped to have influence through the ethnic Russian minority, and has sent in many people from Russia to cause disturbances, seems to have, in the last day or two, very clearly shown the affiliation and loyalty to the Ukrainian state, and that, I think, has been crucial.
Also joining us today from Toronto, we have Christina Waller. She's a former resident of Kiev. She also recently made the trip with Minister John Baird, the Minister of Foreign Affairs. She went to the Ukraine to assess the situation there. So, Christina, you spoke to people on the ground at Independence Square. What is it that they say that they would like to have happen to their country at this point?
The general feeling on Independence Square now is that people want Ukraine to stay united. They want the help from the West to make sure that this happens.
Okay, so they're looking for who, like the U.S., to do what?
The U.S., Canada, and the EU to stay united and to support them.
Okay, were they specific though? I mean, are they looking for military action?
They're
what
looking
specifically?
Yeah, so they asked for OSCE monitors, which has now happened. They asked for emergency bailouts, which has now happened. And they're asking for the continued support.
Christina, give us an idea what it's like on the ground there. You were there a while back, and when you were last on this program, you explained to us how the Ukrainian people are feeling. Is it more tense? Can you give us what a palpable feeling is amongst the folks in Kiev?
Absolutely. Kiev now is a city in mourning. 100 fallen heroes, as they call them, died after being attacked by snipers. And aside from that, aside from being in mourning, they are still very determined. They're very determined people, and they're determined to keep their country together.
Professor, Minister John Baird has compared Russia's troop presence in the Ukraine to Hitler's invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1938, which was a precursor to World War II. Would you agree with that?
Well, there is, of course, a historical analogy. That is, Hitler's government said that it had to protect and defend the German-speaking citizens of Czechoslovakia. It accused the Czechoslovak government of persecuting these groups. There was relatively little evidence for it, just as in Ukraine there has been almost no evidence of any persecution of either Russians living in Ukraine or Russian speakers. And then what it does is it confuses international principles. It suddenly gives a country the right to intervene in the next country because of the ethnic identity of people in that country, and doesn't pay at all attention to citizenship. So in all those ways one can compare. I think obviously